Welcome, beautiful souls. I'm grateful and ecstatic to share with you another episode of Boss Talks, where powerful creators come together to uplift the universal consciousness. And today, I have a very special and divine guest, man, Mr. Life Skills guy himself, Kris Kay. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. And we're talking off air before we came on, and I just being on this podcast and being asked really changed my perspective. I had to do a life review. I had to think about my spirituality. And sometimes you really think you know. You really think you know and you got it all figured out. And then you realize when you think about it again that you really don't understand it as much as you do. So by talking to you today and by sharing my story and by just having a discussion, I really look forward to what I'm going to get out of it. And I hope your audience gets something out of it too. That's my intention.
Thank you. And it's like, and it's for me as well. It's like along this journey, it's like we don't have all the answers, and we don't have to have all the answers. Like that's where you come together with powerful creators to figure this whole thing out. Ask the questions that that your soul like craves. Go find those answers. Go really do that deep search within yourself. And so, on that note, like what really got you started, on this like spiritual journey or your journey of ascension? Like what was it that sparked this path for you?
Well, the journey always starts at the beginning, and it started back in my childhood. And what I'm going to do is as I did my life review, I realized that my life kind of broke into different stages, and that I think we all go through the same stages differently. We all have different paths that we go down, but I think we're all headed in the same direction. And my childhood basically started where I really didn't feel like I belonged. I mean, I remember my childhood's a blur. I know people who like, they remember everything about their childhood. They remember like what they got on their third birthday or whatever. I don't remember hardly anything. And the reason I don't is because I just didn't feel like I belonged. I just felt like I didn't fit in, and there was no reason to. I mean, I grew up really typical childhood. I lived in some really like exclusive places. I lived in Laguna Beach. I lived in Marin County, which is the most, one of the most expensive places in the world. I mean, I have nothing to complain about, but I just didn't feel like I fit. I felt like I came from a different planet. Okay. I just looked around and I saw people that were, living their lives and they looked happy. And I was just like, I didn't quite get it. So what happened was I kind of had to try to fit in. I started to play a character. And the reason I say that, I think we all do. I think we all come in. I mean, all of our lives start unaware of what's going on, right? There's a system that we come into. Yeah. And we look at the system, we could call it the matrix, right? The matrix sometimes gets this like pejorative, like, oh, it's a system. It's a system of understanding, right? And you either resonate with it or not. And for me, I did not. I just didn't. It didn't resonate with me. I didn't get it. I didn't feel it. I didn't see it. I didn't understand it. So what I started doing was I looked at other people's happiness. That's one thing that I did. I love to see people happy. Like I like to see people happy. I wasn't. So I like to see people happy. So I learned how to make people happy. Mm-hmm. So I played a character. And I basically developed my sense of my people skills, my communication skills, my sense of humor, the way that I can understand people as a survival technique. Yeah. But deep down underneath, I didn't feel normal. I didn't feel like I fit in. I think it happens for I'm speaking for myself, yeah. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening that had a similar experience where as a kid, they're just like, what is going on here? Yeah. Did you have anything like that going on when you were a kid?
Yeah, I had something pretty similar. It's like for like my childhood and stuff, it was like I'm the baby in my family. So like I have like my brother is 10 years older than me and my sister's 9 years older than me. And so like it was more so like do what I say, and then like they walking me through life, so it's like I'm just looking around like, okay, y'all say do this, oh y'all say do that. So it's like I'm playing the role that, it's like I don't really know what's going on. And so, like, I definitely get what you're saying. It's like, and then out of nowhere, you like, so it happened differently for me. Like, I'm going through a life, like, blind. Like, I'm not aware of none of this stuff. I'm not thinking about other people's happiness. Like, I'm just living as, like, just being. And then, like, out of nowhere, it was just kind of like, stuff just started not to feel real. It felt like it was like an illusion. It was fake. I was just like, I gotta go tap into something else. I gotta understand like this something's not right in my in my spirit. And I didn't know what it was, you know. And so like I definitely understand like playing a role and then like even like going to college and going to get a job and like I was living a life that I, you know, like really wasn't for me. So yeah, definitely something similar.
Well, I like when you said darkness, because I've really been thinking a lot about energy and light and dark and all that. But when you say darkness, you said blind. And it's true. We come in blind, right? And you can consider that darkness. Is
Yeah.
it bad? Not necessarily. Is the
Yeah.
character that we play that we don't understand bad? Not necessarily. It's what you do with that character and how you evolve it, right? Because that character is not you. I know when I was a kid, that wasn't me. I mean, what
Yeah.
I was doing is I was shining and I was putting on this performance, and I totally understand that why
You were
comedians.
pretty much a mirror of the people that raised you, you know, like they were that exact same, you know. It's like nobody
Yeah,
really cultivates that inner self, and it's like we only a reflection of our parents, of our teachers, of society, and the people that we become, like, you know, that we're around, especially as kids, because we're sponges.
it's a program. It's a program. It's a system. It's a program. It's a matrix, and you could call it culture. You could call it whatever you want, but it's not you. You're
Yeah, it's
part
all
of
a program. It's all a
it's
program.
a program, and
It's a
you can call
program.
that darkness because you have to understand it, right? You don't quite understand it, and you're not understanding it from your perspective yet. When you're a kid, you're just learning it. You're taking it in,
Yeah,
right?
because it's like our minds, we work like a computer, you know, like a computer system. You know, it's like what you input is what you get as the output. You know,
Right.
the information you put in is the information you get out. So it's like that program, and it's like I like to kind of like separate it because we've been given a fear-based program. We've been given that survival program that, you know, this program where you gotta like you can't really be yourself, you know, and it's like it's time to, you know, infiltrate a new program in there, you know, a love program, frequency, you know.
Or does that help you find yourself?
That's true. That's true.
Or does that help you? Does the fact that it's not you help you find you and appreciate you?
I think in hindsight, looking at the fear-based program, it can help you to like appreciate yourself better. I think it's better ways to do it. Like you don't have to
Oh
whoop,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
you don't
Oh
have to
no, no,
whoop
no. I'm not
kids.
saying that. I support the system the way it is, but I'm trying to look for for me, what I did, and we'll get to when we talk about kind of how I'm trying to look at things in terms of like the opportunities that they present,
Yeah,
that what you're given and what you can make out of it. Because I think that when you have a problem, that's really shows what you're made of. I mean, are you going to use that problem to rise, or are you going to use that problem to sink? And
yeah,
that not only means you, but it means the system as well. Are you going to rise together, or are you going to find your way down to the bottom,
yeah.
right?
And
So,
that's the only part that I have like that I think about like with the with like a little notification that came up. That's the thing that I think about. I lost my train of thought.
no, it says time remaining like 9 minutes. Do we only have like 9 minutes left?
Well, because it had like the three because it had three of us on at first. I'm not sure what I need to do.
Does that mean we can't we have more than 9 minutes left together? I hope.
Yeah, we do.
I'm
And
enjoying this.
if I just need to start a new meeting, I'll do that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Put it together.
Well, let's finish up. So, basically, when I was a kid, I learned to shine. So I developed like I believe that we have a reflection and we have an inflection, right? So there's really two voices that we develop when we're a kid. One is the reflection. That means how do people see me and how do I feel about how people see me? That's my reflection,
Yeah.
right? Then there's the inflection, which is like how do I feel about myself in the dark in a quiet room? And my reflection is what I developed. I developed the fact that, I shined. I made people happy. I entertained, and I was a people pleaser. But behind closed doors, I felt totally empty.
Yeah.
And one thing and now I'm looking at the benefits of this here. Once again, I mean, we could look at this as a sad story, but I want to look at it. What was the treasure in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The treasure in it was in terms of my performance, I developed some really good skills.
Yeah.
I developed the ability to talk to you like I'm talking to you right now and relate to you the way that I am, because I had to develop that skill because I didn't feel like I connected with anyone. So now I feel like I can connect with anyone, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The second thing was my loner. I would go and hide from the world because I didn't really feel like I was valuable. I felt like my performance is what they liked, and I can't perform all the time. So I'd go and hide, right? And I was kind of like a hermit. But what was nice about that is it developed my sense of my inner voice, my inner originality. Like I developed this different personality, this different perspective that was kind of rebellious. And I think that's really great because it prevented me from really hooking onto the programming that exists. So I like wanting people to be happy. I had a really open mind. Like I honestly didn't care what people did or what, I just wanted people to be happy. I didn't care as long as they weren't hurting anybody else. And they were responsible. They were kind and responsible. Yeah. They could be whoever they wanted. I didn't care because I didn't feel enough about myself. I just wanted to see people happy, but I didn't want to see people hurting each other either.
I definitely get what you're saying there, and that resonates a lot with me. You know, it's like, because like as you go throughout this journey, like a lot of people are like, they do fall into the people pleasing and trying to make everybody else happy and not even like consider their own happiness. But like, whenever you do take that time alone to kind of be introspective and, you know, you're able to talk to yourself and reprogram that inner talk, you know, it's like, because it's like, I'll even say along my journey, you know, and like doing things that I do, you know, it's like a lot of people say, man, you're doing so many great things. And like, you have this and this and this. Like I went to school and got a chemical engineering degree and then ended up becoming an entrepreneur. And then it's like, I didn't really feel like I had much to offer. But then, like, when you actually go and sit alone and actually, like, look at your experiences and what you've been through, like you were saying, like, it is a lot of light to find in those dark places. Like, you do, yeah, like, your eyes do open up whenever you do see yourself in a new light. And that time, that introspective time, it gives you that time to, like, feed yourself confidence, feed yourself this love, you know, instead of trying to, like, give it all away to everybody else and not even save an ounce for yourself through people pleasing. And so, like, I definitely hear you there.
Light comes out of the darkness. I'm a big believer that light comes out of the darkness. It's about what you find about yourself that comes out of the things that you don't understand about yourself. Mm-hmm. And the program doesn't tell you what you are. The program tells you what you resonate with, what you could be, but also tells you what you aren't. And that's really the benefit of it. I believe that we come here to learn who we are.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the first step for me was the imbalance stage. Okay. I think we have to be out of balance in order to learn, because I mean, seriously, if we could sit with the jelly bean with the unicorns in the jelly bean field, I'd be cool with that. Yeah. I'd be cool with just chilling with the unicorns and there's no problems with everyone. But listen, as long as everyone had that situation, right? Yeah. It has to be fair. It has to be fair. Now, if it's fair, let's go chill with the unicorns. Yeah. But as long as there's people who are suffering like I did, okay, I think it's really important that not only you evolve, but you evolve the system that evolved you.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing this whole thing. That's why I got into the life skills and doing all that, is that as I'm evolving, I want to evolve the system. Now, can I go run off somewhere and hide from the world? Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, one, that's not going to evolve me. Yeah. And two, it's not going to
from yourself doing that.
So it's going to kind of put me back where I started.
Yeah, it's like you run away from yourself, running away from your message. It's like,
I mean, so basically where I was at was this kind of, I'd shine and then I'd abuse myself. Now, I had an abusive side, okay? And it got really bad when I got into teaching, all right? I found my shine. All right. When I was like high school, I was just kind of like a loner. Okay. Here's a funny story about me, about my perspective when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I went to the pumpkin patch, right? And my mom told me that I'd pick out the pumpkin that nobody wanted. Okay. Nobody wanted the pumpkin, the most beat up, raggedy. You know, my brother grabbed the biggest, like great, you know, most glorious pumpkin. I grabbed this old beat up, like rotten pumpkin, right? Yeah. My mom would be like, well, why are you picking that? I said, well, because nobody else is going to take it. And that was my mentality. Now, what I didn't know back then, I mean, I was like 7, so I wouldn't know this. But I was really choosing me.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how I saw myself. But, I mean, back then, I didn't see that. Yeah. But as I went through my childhood and even all the way through high school, I picked the pumpkins. I was drawn to the pumpkins because that's what I wanted to be there, because I was one of them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that we rose together, right?
It's
but I
all
was a
example.
loner. I didn't feel that great about myself, whatever. Then I started working with autistic adults, okay? I really wanted to serve society. That's one thing I'm really proud of. As bad as I felt about myself, I always chose that I wanted to at least help the world, okay? I mean, I may have felt terrible about myself, but I wanted to make a difference. And it was always that inside of me. I don't know why, but it was. So I started working with autistic adults, and that led me into the classroom working with autistic kids. And I was looking at these teachers and what they're doing, and I'm like, that's kind of, and then one day, and I think everything happens for a reason, a teacher was like, hey, you know, could you just teach this? You know, she had a headache or something was going on. She's like, can you take, and I got up there and it was magic. It was my magic. And I believe that light is magic. Okay. And everyone has it. Now, it may not be teaching for somebody, but you have to find your magic.
Yeah, it's like writing, singing, you know, being an engineer, you know, it's like different. It's all magic.
Well, whatever you do that is just something that you can't explain how good you are at it, what the sign is. I mean, it's like you're natural, right? Now, there's many theories why, and I don't want to get into all that because that would take us until like next Tuesday. But I have a lot of theories about it. But anyways, to stick to this, I got up there and I shined. And what happened was I realized that I was really good at that, and that was my calling.
Hold on, Kris. The meeting's about to end in less than a minute. I want to hear this story about your magic and you teaching. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end this meeting and I'm gonna send you another invite, like right now.
Are you gonna do it on Twitter?
No, yeah, I'll just send it to you through there.
Okay, cool.
Like I'm ready about to close this one out and start a new meeting right now.
All right.
All right.
I'll see you in a sec.
All right.
Good to go?
Yep.
All right. So anyways, I found my shine. Now, it was a blessing and a curse, because what happened with me is it fed my ego, okay? Now, the way that I see the ego is I don't see the ego as a bad thing. I think it's a survival mechanism. I really believe it kind of will get you through what you need to get through, and it can definitely be abused. And what happened was, once I got that ego going, it gave me that kind of like even more so to shine. Okay. And I think what happens is you only can devote your energy and your attention to one thing at a time. You're either going to devote it to the system or you're going to devote it to yourself. Now, can you do both? Yes. If you have a good sense of self and you have a good sense of your duty, that's great. But I wasn't doing that. What was happening is I was really shining. I mean, I was getting a lot of recognition. A lot of people were saying how great I was, which fed my ego. It was great. But that made this feel even lower because I felt like I was pretending. I felt like I was acting. I felt like I was. So what I would do is I had this real dichotomy between how my reflection and my inflection. And my inflection was really, really just to the point where I felt like I was I guess like I was playing a character, as we said before, but even more so. So I got self-abusive, and I had some real crutches. And when I say crutches, I mean with a capital C, okay? Like really self-abusive. And what I would do is I'd go to work and I would shine. Then I would go home and I would abuse myself. And that cycle continued for about 10 years. I had about a 10-year cycle of shine and abuse and shine and abuse. And it was extremely unhealthy. And I was very much so out of balance. We're talking about the balance and how balance, I believe the imbalance creates the opportunity to learn how to balance better. And I believe the lesson that I came here to learn in my life is balance. I think if you were going to look at school as like as life as a school and a lesson plan, my lesson plan was balance. And it's funny because I'm not that into like astrology, but I am a Pisces sun and a Aries moon. Okay. So you want to talk about two things that are totally out of balance, right? That's me. I mean, that is a metaphor for me. I'm so extreme.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy. People sleep on astrology, but it's so real. It's real.
well, I mean, yeah. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I was really out of balance, and I think that came to the point where there was a collapse. And I think that's everyone's mission in life. I think is like, well, I don't think everyone, but I think there is a common journey in life where you come to a point where there's a fork in the road, and you have a decision to make. Do you want to continue doing that, or is it time to make a change? And I think sometimes the universe guides you in that direction, and sometimes I think it throws you in that direction, because it whispers. I had a tweet one time that the universe whispers until it has to shout.
Yeah.
Well, I was somebody that wasn't listening to whispering, okay, because the universe gives you what you need. I believe. Now, is it kind always? No, but it's kind in the way that you need it. Okay, it's not comforting, but it's definitely necessary.
Yeah.
So I needed a real kick, and the way that it came to me, and this is how my ascension process started, was in 2017. It was a really low point in my life. I mean, a really low point. Now, the good news was I did actually find a great woman, my wife. And I mean, you want to talk about an angel? You want to talk and do what was great about her is she was very grounded. I needed that. I've always been like out in la la land. I'm a very head in the clouds guy. I always have been. I always like the what if. I always like the, you know, I'm a dreamer. Let's put it that way. Well,
I resonate with that as well.
And that works. I mean, that works when you're able to, but there's a time you need to be grounded too, right?
For sure.
I believe that life comes with responsibility and it comes with kindness. And the responsibility part's important as well. And my wife was really grounded, and she helped me. But still, I was at a point. We had these fires in California in 2017, and we almost lost our house, and it was a very stressful time. And I believe it was a breakthrough moment for me. It's where I actually came to my greatest sense, because I never really allowed myself to be afraid. I would use crutches to stay away from my fears. Big crutches.
Nah, I hear you.
And this didn't allow me to have the crutches, because I couldn't use those crutches to avoid this firestorm and this fear. And it broke me. But it broke me so I could put myself back together. That's the way that I see it. So once again, I'm finding the treasure in the situation. So I made a resolution, like, I'm going to stop doing all these things that are avoiding my feelings. Basically, what I was doing is avoiding my feelings of myself, not about what I was doing in the world, because I felt fine about that. It was just what I was doing to myself. I mean, I was just crippling myself, and I felt horrible about it. So I decided I was going to stop. And my life automatically changed. I mean, I started like eating better. I cut out all the crutches, and I was called to do all these weird things, like not weird, but different for me.
No, I get you.
Not weird at all, but like meditate. I mean, meditation.
It's different just because nobody's ever taught us to do that. It's like it's outside the norm. It's like meditate, yoga. You doing that? Yes, do it.
And you know what? It was like my worst nightmare before. The last thing I'd want to do is sit in a quiet room with my eyes closed. I mean, are you kidding me? That's my worst nightmare. And you know what? It actually turned out to be, because what happened is I went up, I'd meditate, and all of a sudden I had two things happen to me, and they were both terrifying. One was all my fears came out. All my fears just came, boom. And everything, dude, seriously, my wife will laugh about it. Everything was a demon. Everything. I mean, like everything. It was all about evil. So I'm up there and I'm thinking about how everyone's out to get me. Everyone's evil. Not me, of course, because it has nothing to do with me. Right? I mean, I'm an angel. But everyone, dude, the dog, and I'm serious, the dog at one point was a demon, okay? The dog was out to get me. It was a rational fear. And I think that's what's holding so many people back, and me to this day. I have to deal with my irrational fears, but you don't know what they are until they come out, and you start trying to explain it to somebody. I'm telling my wife that our dog's a demon, and she's looking at me like, and then I'm starting to realize, like,
we start to project
does that even make sense, right?
We start to project our internal state of being on the world, and it's like it could be true, but it might not be, you know. But it's on us, and
right?
So, like, not what you said.
But I mean, it was like, okay, so all the fears came out and I'm terrified. I'd come down every day. I'd be like, just like stressed and all this, but I kept doing it. And then the other thing that came up that scared me, this was really scary. And this will happen to people. One of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast is this going to, if you go through this journey that we're talking about, most likely it will happen to you. Now, I didn't know this was going to happen. We talked about before we came on, it was like being put on a roller coaster without knowing and just being on the ride. And you're like, what's happening to me?
Yeah.
This was that event. I started to get, I guess you'd call them visions. I don't know what to call them, but it was all about energy. I got really fascinated about energy, like about light and dark. And like, I started to see like pyramids and like, they say like sacred geometry, right? Like crosses. And like in a minute, I'll kind of show you how that all works out because I grounded it and put it together and knew, I kind of know why I saw it now. But back then I was like, why am I seeing pyramids and crosses and like energy? And why am I thinking about light and dark?
Yeah.
And I thought I was losing my mind. So anybody out there that's going through that experience, it's terrifying, but what it's doing is, well, first of all, the fears that come out it's valuable. It's scary to do that, but I mean, that's valuable. But in terms of all the things, I guess they call them downloads. I don't know, whatever they call them. You're receiving them as they're almost like metaphors, I guess, or now they're ways that you could make sense out of things that you're not ready to understand yet.
Yeah.
It's like a different language. Now, where does that language come from? I don't know. Was it something I already knew? Is it something I don't know? But it scared the daylights out of me. Have you ever had something like that where you're just like all of a sudden you're thinking about pyramids and crosses?
Yeah, all the time. I think in terms of frequencies, wavelengths, light, energy, and like whenever you bring that up, it's like you start to get a new taste for life or a new zest for life because it's like you're kind of getting towards your essence. You know, we are light, we are energy. We do get these downloads and like signals and messages from the universe. And so like, oh no, that happens all the time. And it's like the best way I've learned to like internalize and understand these downloads is to actually write them down. You know, like write down the questions that I'm curious about. Like, who am I? Who are you? Like, what's the universe? What is God? Like, you know, all of these questions. And like, I found like to write out those questions and then literally sit there in meditation and then write out your answers because it's like, you're literally like a vessel, like a medium for the universe. And I'm gonna go out on the limb and say, I believe everybody has a mission, has a purpose on this place. Like we send ourselves here in advance and like with these messages, with this like mission. And it's like our life experiences, like, and it's like, I'm glad you brought that up because it's like, I always look at the systems, like a lot of them are built for the masses to fail. But at the same time, there are a lot of key things that you can learn through these systems to go, because it's like, it's problems out here. It's so many problems and we are the solutions. I don't like to say solutions, like soul, S-O-U-L.
I like that. Yeah,
you know,
I like that.
like, we're the problem and the solution. And so like, we send ourselves here with the message, you know, like whether it's love, and some people come here to push fear, to push, you know, it's like everybody here is for a reason, like duality, balance. And then like, I like how you brought up balance because like, I think about babies. Babies come out pure and whole, but like, they can't even hold their heads up, you know, like they just kind of just sit there. And it's like, they have to go through life. They have to like get like the nutrition and to be able to hold themselves up and to find that balance. And so like, I always think about like, as kids go throughout their different stages, they're learning balance, you know, in one way or another, you know, and it's like, it's whether we teach it consciously or unconsciously, everybody's learning balance.
You know, what you just said triggered something with me about how you can learn about the universe by looking at what's going on in the world, right? I think everything is a metaphor. And what you just said about kids learning how to balance and the struggle of learning how to balance like that, I think that's how it works in the whole universe.
Oh yeah, we're big babies.
So it's all just, it all relates to everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I got on Twitter, by the way. I got on Twitter because I mean, all my tweets for the most part, I'm meditating. So what I'm doing is I'm meditating and I get some kind of thought. And it's like, for me, I have to ground it. So in order for me to ground it, I have to make sense of it and try to make it so it makes sense in terms of a story or whatever. So what I would do is I'd put it out there to ground it. And if I got any feedback on it, I was hoping that would help me out, because my wife was tired of hearing about pyramids and crosses and light and dark and all that. So I wanted to find a different audience for it.
You got to take your talents to Twitter.
That's what got me on Twitter in the first place. I wanted to find a place to talk about, like, weird, and not weird, but just alternative. Let's go with alternative thoughts that I would have never talked about before. My buddies, I mean, I tried a couple of times and they're like, let's talk about something else, and then whatever. But in terms of this stage where I was getting my fears and these downloads where I thought I was losing my mind, that was the test. That was like, all right, Kris, you want to go back to your old life now? It was like in the Matrix. You want to take the blue pill or the red pill, right? If you want to go back to drink, go back to those crutches that you had before, go back. You go back to what you were doing, or do you want to continue on this journey? And that was continuing to keep being healthy and to do the meditation and to think about myself and all that.
And you never really know how far the rabbit hole is going to go. Like, where the blue pill is going to take you. Like, you done did this many years. You know exactly the results you're going to get. But it's like when you take that red pill, it's like you're going into the unknown. And it's like, and I just, like, The Matrix is literally my favorite movie. Like, I've seen that movie like 100 times. And so, like, I always love that reference. And so, like, I had my first blue pill, red pill moment in 2013. I was on an internship. I was on an engineering internship my senior year of college. I was working for Texas Instruments in Dallas as an engineer. And I'm like, and then, like, I watched this documentary called Zeitgeist. And so, like, it talks about God. It talks about the government. It talks about everything, every conspiracy you can ever think of. And so, like, I'm literally on an internship. Like, I'm still undergrad. Like, I don't have a full-time job. Like, for like a good 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going crazy at this moment because, like, I grew up in like a Christian background, like going to youth meeting, choir rehearsal, Bible study, the works. And so, like, my whole religious, like, foundation had just been shattered. It had been shattered. And I'm just like, and so, like, I'm on the work clock, like, is Jesus real? Like, is the government out to get us? Like, 9/11, like, the banking system. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so, like, I'm going through this experience and, like, just trying to figure it out. And, like, literally, like, it was kind of, like, impossible at a point to kind of take the blue pill again, like, to go back to the old way, because I'm like, my mind has just been stretched. And I'll tell you something like this with the homies and, like, with your friends, they have these thoughts.
Yeah.
They scared of it just like we were at one point. And it's like, you don't want to explore it because you don't know where it's going to take you.
Scary. It's scary when you don't understand it, because you realize you don't understand yourself. And
I was just about to say that.
That's a scary thing when you don't understand yourself, but that's where the heroes go.
Yeah.
And that takes courage. So I see it as a heroic journey. They call it the hero's journey.
Hero's journey,
that's why, because it's scary. I have a hilarious Catholic school story for you, but we'll save that if we have time. But I did go to Catholic school for part of my, I never got anything really, it didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
I think it did plant some seeds, though, that helped me understand things. But at the time that I received it, maybe I wasn't ready. I don't know. But I have a good story about that if we have time. If we have time, I'll tell you that.
So I'll tell you, just kind of like expounding on that, like with my like background with Christianity, it was like going through that phase of like I'm thinking I'm going crazy. Like at points I'm like between agnostic, atheist, like thinking like it's nothing else even out there besides me and who we are here. And it's like you go down these different rabbit holes, and it's like it eventually all came back around to like God and the universe and like that relationship and how I felt about that. And like that's really like it came all back full circle. Like, nah, it's like it's definitely a higher power out here, God, universe, Yahweh, whatever you like to call it, Buddha. It's something out there bigger than us, and it's like it's bigger than us, but it is us,
right?
And it's like a lot of people don't like to like they like to keep us separated from the divine, and I don't like that, because it's like when you have like. It's like, just like in like Christianity, like you have a middleman so you can connect to God. It's like, why do I need somebody to get to the source of where I came from? And it's like, that kind of like sets a lot of people back, because it's like you don't feel like nobody has your back, and it's like you got to go through somebody to get to somebody, and it's like
it's like creating a middle, creating a barrier between you and what you need, right? That barrier usually has a price, doesn't it? There's usually a price to pay for that,
because
right?
you get a feeling of disconnect, that void, that emptiness, that, you know, that stuff that people are searching for. They're searching for themselves, but they're really searching for God.
But there could be in that barrier, there could also be a distortion in there too, right? There's an opportunity to exploit and distort in that barrier between you and the higher version of you, or whatever you see of that. So yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy. It's like I really believe this in my soul now. Like, people treat people how they think God treats them, and they go treat themselves the same way that they think God treats them. You know, it's like you were saying, like sitting in a corner by yourself, like that's so like the biggest nightmare. And I had that same nightmare as well. It's like to be able to just sit there with yourself. It's like you're like, you know, it's like, because it's like you don't know yourself, you know. So it's like, you don't know. And it can be a scary place, but it's like, it's such a peaceful place. When, you know, it's like, it just takes practice. You know, it's like just taking that time to sit there and do it over and over, and like kind of like reforming and reprogramming, because it's like, we've been saying the whole time, it's like we've been given this program, and not to say like that program had its pros and cons, but now it's like a new program, a new like divine program, a godly program, teaching people that you are a part of God and God is a part of you. And so like that can kind of like shift the consciousness in a way people just perceive themselves and everything around them.
You know, you said something about being in your room and being alone, and how about being by yourself and being connected to everything? That could be terrifying too, because that's what I realized is when I did disconnect, I was really connected to everything. And that's just a monumental thing to be faced with, because you really are connected to everything, and that's what you start to see, and that's what happened. That's like the next stage of this, the next stage of the ascension process for me, or the awakening, whatever you want to call it, was the honeymoon stage. And I will tell you that anybody, this is the best. You might have had one, but this was my honeymoon stage. After I had my fear and the demons and all that kind of thing, I had a near-death experience. I guess I would call it a near-death experience, because I really thought I was going to die, but it was the most beautiful thing ever. And I was meditating, and what happens is I make recordings sometimes. Like I'll record myself and then I'll listen to it, because, I mean, if you're listening to your own voice, right? I mean, it's not somebody else's voice, it's your voice, and you're talking to yourself, right? So anyways, I started doing that, but I started kind of just talking, and it just went off on this thing, and it turned into a realization for me at the time, and I saw it visually too as I was talking out loud, of how my life worked. And the way that my life worked was everything was connected, everything was on my side, everyone was there to help me as a character in my life, not a character, but a being in my life to help. All the difficult people taught me how to deal with difficult people. All the great people made me appreciate who I was. All the times I was sick helped me appreciate my health. It was the most beautiful, logical, irrational, all at the same time. Perfect. And I thought, I got it. I figured it out. We're connected. Everything's good. Everything's meant to be, right? So I get up, and my wife is like coming home. I know she's coming home. I get up, and I didn't really drink at the time. I'm like, that's it. We're going to ascend right now. I mean, she's going to come through the door. She's going to tell me that she knew this the whole time, and that this was just a test for me to prove that I can like figure it out. And I figured it out, right? So I get this beer that I had, a warm beer in my room from South Africa, and I was going to crack it for celebration. So I'm downstairs, and I'm waiting for my wife to come in the door. So she's going to open the door, and I'm going to picture like there's the beams of light coming through, and we're going to walk into another dimension, right? She still laughs at me for this, right? And so I'm standing there with a warm beer in my hand, and she walks in the door, and she looks at me and like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, I mean, I really thought at that time it was that magical, right? So I'm like, all right, okay, I still know it's a test. This is still real, whatever. I went through this 6 months of pure bliss. I mean, synchronicities, every time I looked at the clock, it was like 444.
Yeah.
Feathers all over the place. I mean, everything. I was threading the needle in life. Everything's perfect, right? And this is an embarrassing part of the story, really embarrassing. I went on the internet. I was like, I got to check this out because I didn't really during the whole process really look into the spirituality part. And, when I went to like YouTube, I'd look on like Joe Rogan and things like that, right? Well, I started looking up spirituality things, right? So all of a sudden I discovered I was an angel, right? I was an angel, right? Now, let me cut to the secret. We're all angels. We just don't know it. But I was an angel. And what happened, and once again, it was a curse. It really got to my head. Okay. So just like with teaching, that shine part of me just turned on. So I went from this scared, like terrified person back to now I'm the shining light of the universe, right? Now here's the embarrassing part. So I start getting on social media and you know who Jordan Peterson is?
No, I haven't.
Okay, dude. Well, some of your listeners probably know. He's like this genius at like Harvard. He's like into symbols and all this. I'm hitting Jordan Peterson up, okay? This is like hitting Albert Einstein up, okay? Yeah. And telling him that I'm going to teach him something about symbols and that I know all this, okay? And then I hit up Joe Rogan and I tell him that he needs to have me on the podcast because I'd be such a great interview and I'd be the best, right? And then I hit up Bill Burr. He's a comedian, saying, I just telling him that I was just flexing. I was flexing big time. I was just like, man, I'm an angel and I'm here to save the world. And my intentions weren't bad, but I was just like, I lost it. I couldn't handle my light.
Yeah, the ego started to come back. And it was like you were saying earlier, it's like life is the roller coaster. It's like you go up and then you'll come down,
Well, that comes next. But this was the top. I was just like, the universe is my oyster. I am like the pearl of the universe. The universe is my oyster and I'm the pearl. Yeah. It was it's embarrassing to say, but it's absolutely true. I just felt I couldn't handle it. I couldn't ground it. Okay. That was the thing. So what did you have a honeymoon period where just the unicorns and the jelly bean fields and all that?
It's been like a roller coaster. Like certain points, it's been like all love and light, but it's like a lot of the times it's like me thinking I'm crazy half the time. Like honestly, I'm like, cause it's like I'm trying to share like information with people around me, and like it resonates with some people. Some people like they change the subject, and half the time I'm like, it's like I'm like I'm a dreamer, so it's like I go like it's all unicorns and rainbows. It's all like divine, like I go there. And so like maybe that is the honeymoon, but it's like I also get like my bubble bursted like when people don't, and when it doesn't resonate, when people like, nah, that ain't really it, like nah, that like nah, and so like it's like I like that was the times where like I'll get my bubble bursted, but it's like now it's like most of the time it's like you gotta feel like you're crazy.
Yeah. So what happened to me, and this is the scariest part, and if people are listening to your podcast and they've been through the dark night of the soul, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but it was the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me. And what happened was I flew too close to the sun, okay? Now, I developed my sense of shine externally, and then I kind of developed my internal shine as that angelic part that I came to, but it was just too much, right? Yeah. So the universe brought its balance in. And in November, I wrote the date down. It was November of 2018. I had a dark night of the soul. And what happened to me is one day I woke up and I felt like I died. Now, the thing is that nothing in my life had changed. Nothing. Like I still like went to work. There was my external life was fine, the same as it always was. But inside, nothing external worked anymore. So I couldn't go to the well. I couldn't go to the external validation well anymore. I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. And it terrified me because whenever I felt bad about myself, I just go to the well. I just go make somebody laugh. I tell a story. I do all those things, my bag of tricks, right? didn't work anymore. It just didn't. And I couldn't explain to you why it didn't. It didn't feel right. My body started feeling different. Like I felt like I was floating, and it scared me because I really thought like there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I felt like I was filled with helium and I was going to float away, or I was going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And this lasted for 2 years. It was 2 years that I spent absolutely terrified. Now, what was cool is I was really good at playing a character. So I'd come home and I would go up into my room and I'd sit there and meditate and go through all these things. And it was shadow work.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was really facing my true dragons. I mean, it was really facing those dragons, not in a fearful way so much anymore, but really just dealing with it. A lot of like sadness, a lot of all those things that I buried down deep inside. And with that were the treasure. As I was going through my trash, that's where the treasure came out.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my wisdom came out. So during this time is where I got all my, like, you know, people are, you know, ask me sometimes, why do you, you know the things that you know, or say the thing? Because that wisdom came from the things that I went through, and looking through all the challenges and what we might call the trash, I found some treasure.
Yeah.
Like serious treasure.
Oh yeah.
But I really just felt horrible. And for those of you who are going through this, or the dark night of the soul, I'm going to tell you this. And I said it, I made a Twitter little thing on this. You will never be given anything that you can't handle. And I believe that. And I have a story behind that proves it. My wife and I, this is at a really low point. We watched, I don't know why we decided to watch it, but what's the movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga? I just forgot the name of the movie. The one Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, it's A Star Is Born or something like that.
Yeah,
anyway,
A Star Is Born. I just Googled.
Okay, well, listen to me. It was not a feel-good movie, okay? It wasn't. And we decided to watch it. And at the end of the movie, if you don't want to hear the ending, mute this or whatever. But, you know, the guy kills himself, right? Well, my aunt killed herself, okay? And it triggered something in me that I just wasn't ready for, and I freaking lost it. I mean, I lost it. I was just like a total mess. I just totally broke. I was crying. I mean, my wife and I was a mess, right? So I got to take the trash out, because this was during spring break. It was March 2018. Never forget it. I got to take the trash out. And I'm taking the trash out, and I'm crying, and I'm just like, I'm a mess, right? Yeah. I'm taking the trash out. There's a responsible side of me, right? And I thought to myself, what if life is just about suffering and dying, and that this is all just torture, and that there's no hope, right? Well, I was taking the last can out. I still get chills talking about this. The light in my car turned on. Now, my aunt killed herself in a car, okay? The light turns on. Now, I don't have my keys in my pocket. Trust me, I've been through this 1,000 times, okay? 1,000 times I've been through this, all right? I didn't have my keys in the car, in my pocket where I could have bumped into it or whatever. My light came on, okay? And there was a hummingbird in the tree above me that flew by me at 10 o'clock at night. Now, anybody out there, hit me up on Twitter and explain how that's even possible, and how that doesn't show that you will always be given what you needed, because I needed that, because that was the point where I doubted the universe. I doubted it. I was like, we're all here to suffer and die. And that changed my mind. And everything I've been through from the time on, I always go back to that incident. That was the biggest gift the universe ever gave me.
That's crazy. I'm a big believer in divine intervention and things coming right when you need them. And it's like right on time. And it's like, you can't even explain why it happened, but it happened. And like, I hear you on that divine intervention, and then the signs just coming, and this is usually what you need. I had another point, but yeah, like these signs come out of nowhere for you to, it's like, you go through these dark times, and it's like, oh, that's what I was getting to. It's like, like believing like life is just about fear and suffering. Like people actually believe that, like that story, because it's like, that's the story that's been passed down from generations to generations, because people don't take happiness and passion as like a priority in their life. It's all about getting money. It's all about, surviving. And so like, that's part of that, like, that fear program we've been given. And it's like, people think we just here to live. I mean, it's just to live, pay bills, and die. It's like, that's such a mundane way to live life. And it's like, it's so much more to that. There's so much light. It's so much like building to do, and so much co-creation to happen to, you know, to create the reality that we all choose to, you know, that we all choosing to experience.
And I think that gets back to my beginning of the character part, right? That's the character we're supposed to play. But, you know, there's the whole concept of the higher self, right? So the higher self is what's healthy for you. And when I say you, I mean capital U, right?
Yeah.
And you know what that is. Everyone knows what it is intuitively. But what happens is the program versus the intuition. And the closer you get to being authentically you, the closer you are to your higher self. But the program has gravity to it, right? There's a gravity to it that's going to pull you this way. No, you need that car. No, you need the whatever. I was really lucky. One of the biggest gifts that I had was growing up in Marin County, which is one of the richest places on planet Earth. And I was lucky to see really rich people really miserable. And I'm not saying that all rich people are miserable, but what I'm saying is I'm glad that I saw it, because it took that myth away that money makes you happy.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was this one dude that I knew, his dad had a helicopter in the backyard, okay? A helicopter in the backyard.
Yeah.
And they lived in a mansion, obviously, right? And they were totally miserable. I mean, like, their family was a mess and he was a mess. Like, so money doesn't buy, it proved it to me. And that was a real gift for me, because my dad, I love him to death. I love my dad to death. And if he hears this, I love you, Dad. He was a materialist, okay? He got by the Mercedes and the fancy and all that. And for me, that's something that I didn't, because I think we all, like you said, the family system teaches us about values and all that. And there's certain things that resonate with us and there's certain things that don't. Me growing up in Marin and seeing that money didn't buy happiness made it a lot easier for me to get into teaching, because obviously I'm not going to have a helicopter in my backyard if I'm teaching, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't need one, and I knew I didn't need one because it didn't buy happiness. But sometimes you have to have that proven to you, because my dad gave me the impression that money did buy you happiness.
Yeah, it's like that outside, seeking that outside validation, you know, whether it's people pleasing, whether it's getting buku amounts of money just to go buy the biggest house, the best car, just to go go shine on people that you don't even really like. You know, it's like you really buying this stuff. It's like most of the times we like do like compromise our authentic self to please people we don't really even like and like they don't really resonate with our frequency. You know, we're trying to fit into a circle into a square piece, or a square into a circle piece. And it's like, it's crazy. We'll do it in so many different ways, like materialism, like people pleasing, self-harm, like it's so many different ways where we, you know, it's like, and I love how you say it's like that gravity that's holding you, you know, it's like you're trying to ascend and evolve and elevate, but it's always gravity holding you back. And gravity is like past programming, family, friends, you know, like we were saying, like you can't talk to your friends about certain things. And so like when you can't talk about it, when you're able to talk about it, this podcast is ascension. It's not too much gravity holding us back here. But it's like when you can't talk about it, that gravity starts to like slowly pull you down and you start to become like your old self. And I was like talking to my sister about that a while ago, because it's like your environment, that's the gravity, you know, or it's the catalyst, you know. It could go either way, you know. And it's like, it's crazy, like just who you around, they can either hold you back or help lift you up to the next way. And it's crazy. It's really crazy how it all works and come together.
Well, I'm going to do this. My wife's going to kill me because she told me not to do it. But I got a little story for it in terms of like, you know, the hand signals and all that. The way that I ground things is either through a story or some type of representation. But the way that I see it is, I can't believe I'm doing this. But anyways, I'm going to do it anyways.
Do it.
So life has responsibility, right? There's order to it. I mean, in this dimension, maybe there is the place with the jelly bean fields and the unicorns and all that. But right now, when we're talking in 2020,
talking about right now,
you have to have some responsibility, okay? And I see that as order. And that's one energy that I see. It's a natural part of any system. There's order to it, right? And then there's liberty. Okay, there's liberty, and liberty is freedom and just everyone be what they want. But you really can't have one without the other, because it gets abusive or it gets crazy, right? This one's like Darth Vader, everyone's going to be the same, and you do it my way. And this way is everyone be free and everyone just chill. Well, yeah, but then what gets done? Like nothing, right? So there's responsibility to entanglement. We're all entangled, right? And we are. I mean, I'm sure, like, if we
connected with the energy,
and that's the reason is that I think it's for balance, right? So there's this and there's this, and really there's personalities that gravitate towards one or the other. You got the order people. My wife is much more like this, and I'm much more like this.
Yeah.
Now, does that make one of us better than the other? No. In fact, it balances us out. But what I think we're trying to do here, okay, this is my theory of what's going on, is there's a compromise, okay? So you got this and you got this, and they can sit there and beat each other up. One turns to the other, and then you got craziness, and then you got this, and it's just like a fight. Well, how about you take this and you take this, and it's a compromise? What would be a compromise? Now, if you're listening on the podcast, I basically have a fist and I have my hand, right? Left side is the fist, right side is the hand. Two different energies, right? Well, what's a compromise between the two? Wouldn't it be a C, right? Because the fist goes this way and this goes this way. Isn't that a compromise? Okay, so look, watch the compromise. So what I'm doing is I'm making a C with my hand. Now put those C's together and you got love.
I like that.
Okay, and then watch this. My wife's going to kill me for this, by the way. Anyways, so you got love, right? But if you take it this way, if you take it that way, you got them joining in the middle, you got a pyramid, right? So all those times that I was up in my room thinking about these pyramids and all that kind of thing, right? Well, there's a reason for it. It's because it's balanced between the two energies that come together like this meeting. And wouldn't you say that there's two sides, right? So what you have is you have order and you want to elevate those, right? So that's where the cross would be, right? Because there's no such thing as good or bad. There's positive and negative. So the positive of the balance would be up here and the negative would be down there, and the choice exists between there. So, you get these symbols, right? And I mean, is that what those symbols mean? I don't know. That's what it means to me.
It makes sense. I'm going to say this, whenever I always look at Jesus on the cross, the cross is never in the middle as a full balance.
It's a little bit higher, isn't it?
Yeah.
A little higher choice, right?
So it's
a higher choice there.
Damn.
But you don't have to be perfect, right?
Because he's not at the top. Ooh, dude, I like that.
You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be, you just have to.
A little bit, because it's the cross, and then he's just a little bit above. I love that.
See, I'm going to tell my wife you said that, because she's just like, please don't do that.
No, I love that. I love that. Man, because it makes so much sense. Man, that's because it's because everybody's fighting.
Dude.
But when you actually take that power away and compromise a little bit on your, and it's not really compromise. When I don't I don't really like the word compromise, just because it's it makes it feel like you're kind of losing a part of yourself to do that. It's I don't know. I feel like it's not being so stuck in your way of thinking, and it has to be how you envision it.
How about leaning forward? How about watch this? This one leans forward, right? I'm leaning forward. That doesn't mean I'm giving my ground up. Look, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I'm leaning. See, now you're helping me with
this.
Because
I don't really
leaning forward, and this one's leaning forward too. So you're not losing yourself.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're leaning forward so you can connect.
Yeah, because you have great qualities on both sides. Both sides, they're both needed, and neither needs to compromise, but both need to understand.
Yes.
Where the other side is coming from, because I'm like this too. And I meet a lot of people like this, and just with how I communicate, I know it's a lot of people that try to force their way. And it's it doesn't work either way. Like, you know, you can't even force the openness and the, you know, the freedom, like, and it's like, it's just like a weird, like a dichotomy, like a weird, like balance that comes, like, it's more like that understanding. I love the love. Like, I love that and how it turns into a pyramid of balance, and then how you went into the cross and like the whole
and the pyramid.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of those things that I didn't understand. Now, I mean, it'll be different tomorrow. That's the beauty of the whole thing, is that my definition of all these things changes by the day. And I love it. I mean, it's like this eternal understanding of things. And what I think is the most important about all of it is the coming together, the unity. What really exists that causes all the dysfunction is division. Anytime you're dividing, you are creating two separate things that have a choice. They either come back together or they can fight, right? So you could have division or you could have war. And I mean, you look at what we have now in this dimension. We have division, we have distrust. And what I'm doing as a teacher, as a life skills teacher, I love Voltaire. Voltaire's saying, I will die for your, I may not like what you have to say, but I will die for your right to say it, right? So that's that responsibility of being able to, you know, allows it, but the freedom of saying it, right? I think everyone has the right to have their opinions about things, because what happens is if you just have, it's one way. It's one way. It's one way. And I don't care what way that is. That could get abusive, right? I guarantee you that any system, and I think that's why we're going through this, we're evolving systems. I think that's what dimensions are. Dimensions are evolving systems of consciousness, right? And it's where it is, but it's evolving. But what happens is when you have just all freedom, I mean, it's just like, you know, I mean, that's chaos in a way. So you have that balance between, but what's really important is the coming together for a better understanding, because this point of view has a different point of view, but we're all coming from the same, if you want to call it, source, right? We're all family. I look at it as family. I believe that we're all, I mean, if you're going to look at it in terms of like creation, I truly do believe that we are all of the same family. Now, did that family in terms of, I look at it as energy. Okay, we're from the energetic family of all, right? We're all
just different energy. It's just different frequencies, different wavelengths, and like just energy being expressed different ways.
Yeah, we're an entanglement of energy, and what we do as we entangle is we have a choice. It's called free will. But see, free will comes with natural law, and that's the thing. You got natural law, right? I'm glad we're going out here because I love talking about this. By the way, I love talking about this.
Oh yes.
You got natural law, right? That's the law, natural law. I mean, it's like you take things like gravity, or I think that exists everywhere. I really do. I think it's natural law. I think everything's kind of based on the same thing. It's just different representations, right? And then there's free will. You know, you could do whatever you want. But with that, you could make the good choice, which I believe is if you want to talk about God, I know you're going to ask me what my definition of God is. I think my definition of God is the highest version of consciousness that exists. So the godly choice, if you want to put God, I know there's different words of saying it, would be the higher choice. And then the free will would be considered the lower choice. Right? I mean, that would be a collective. Let's say that's a collective choice. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right?
So I think about like choices like this. Like I think about it as like the mindset you go into your choice with, whether that's like God, your higher self, like the universe, or your lower self. You know, if you're acting out of a place of fear, lack, you know, like, you know, or if you're acting out of a place of empathy, love, kindness, and like having that going back to the analogy you use, like of having that, like being so strong and like having that, like, you know, no flexibility or like freedom in your belief. It's like no way for you to ascend, no way for you to evolve, because it's like you're holding yourself down. You know, you just holding yourself down with that. And so it's like, you know, it's like having that flexibility to be like, you know, like if somebody brings something new, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to agree or doesn't have to resonate, but, you know, actually being open to understanding and listening to figure out the, you know, the full perspective before you come out with it. Cause like, I'm a big believer in listening, and like how you like listening to people is like, it's like key. You know, most people like listen to respond back instead of like listening to understand and then, you know, to connect from there. And so like it's like that's like one of the biggest things for me is like being flexible and like, you know, taking the blinders off, like because it's like we create these limits for ourselves, like being so like stuck in our ways, like we create these limits in our brains, and it's like you want to push through the limits so much. You want to push through. Everybody wants to push through their limits. Everybody wants a better life. Like I don't think anybody loves being in a place of suffering, lack. Nobody wants that. But like we create these limits based off how we see the world and our perspectives, and not being open to hearing what other people have to say about their life experiences.
Well, that's a great point. And you just triggered something in me about what I was just talking about with my fears of like demons. Remember I said before, everyone was a demon except for me?
Yeah.
Well, that was an irrational thought. And if you think about it, some people would say, well, that's hate speech for me to say everyone was a demon. Everyone's a demon. My dog's a demon, right?
Yeah.
Well, see, for me, that was allowing me to voice it, to realize that it was irrational. Sometimes you need to bring it into the light, because all of that was darkness inside of me. I mean, maybe I did feel like everyone was out to get me and I was the angel in a world of demons, right? Yeah. Well, as soon as I got that out of me, I was able to understand that that doesn't really make sense. So people may say things that really bother you, and they might actually be hateful. That actually might be healing speech. Because for me, it was.
Yeah, it depends on their journey and depends on what they're doing. But like, I understand the concept of what you're saying. Like, if people are on their journey of healing and saying something like that, but like most people are not. Most people just walking through here like sleepwalking, like on big blue pills, and so like.
Right.
Like I won't like let everybody get away with that.
No. No, listen to me. You need to be responsible and you need to be kind.
Yeah.
You need to be responsible. And you need to be kind. You don't break those rules. And that's natural law.
Love is the only law. And if it comes with
natural, you're responsible and kind. But let's say you are responsible and let's say you're kind and you're willing to let this poison out of you.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid of that speech being used to crush you, because then what you
as long as you know your intentions and know what you're trying to get out of it, for sure. Yeah.
People are going to hang on to it, and then that darkness never comes into the light.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that what you're saying is this opening up is super important.
Yeah.
But you also have to have the discipline, right?
Exactly.
Because you might have some uncomfortable ideas that you have about whatever. We all do. I mean, I know I did. I had some real distortions in my thinking. I still do. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here like I'm some enlightened being and I don't have much, I mean, because it's not true.
It's for sure. But we just learned it.
The more I deal with it and the more I make peace with it, right, the more I feel like I can be at ease with it, because it's all about disease. Dis-ease, D-I-S.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a disease. What's racism? It's a disease, and it's a disease within. What is, exploitation or anything else? It's a disease. And I had a tweet the other day that world peace starts with inner peace. And I totally believe that. I believe that if everyone was healed internally, it wouldn't be played out externally. We play out all our demons externally. Like I said, everyone's a demon. Everyone's out to get me. It's everyone else's fault. You know what? Most of that was in me. And I just needed to bring it out to realize that I was full of, I'm a teacher, so I'm not going to, I was full of that. Okay. Yeah. I was, so.
Once you're able to look at your own demons, you're able to, it's like you're able to say like, this is not who I want to be anymore, or this is not me. This hasn't been me. This is something I absorbed, or it's all many different things. Like once you're introspective with that part of yourself, because it's like we are both like positive, darkness, neutral. Light. Light, darkness. We're the whole encompass of it all, and so like we're everything and nothing. We're all at the same time, and so it's like having that time to say, like, this is who I want to be. And then, like, like that's where really what I stick with it. You know, like this is the person who I want to be. This person who I was, who I used to see myself as. But this, like, I know this is the higher self, the being, the divine person that I want to be in this world. And that comes with responsibility and freedom. You know, like this person who I want to be, I have a responsibility to my fellow individual aspects, my fellow people, but I also have the responsibility for me to be free, for me to take my soul journey to evolve and to be the being who I want to be too. And so, like, that's how I think about it.
You actually brought up two things that made me think about something. The first one, you said we're between everything and nothing. Maybe we are the experience between everything and nothing. Because if you want to look at the creator as being everything, that's nothing if you don't have something that experiences it, right? Mm-hmm. So we're all the something between nothing and everything.
Oh yeah,
we're something.
Oh yeah, we're like individual aspects of the whole, of source, of God, of the universe, all in many different forms. Like, and it's crazy. It's really crazy. And like how I like to think about it now, it's just like, it's a mindset, because it's like when, like, even us talking right now, like this, like reminds me of like my favorite book to this day. It's called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And it's like, I think about this as a conversation with God. You know, it's like I'm learning so much. I'm actually able to interact. And it's like, even whenever I go like out into the world or into nature and like go touch a tree, that's conversations with God. Or whenever I'm drinking a smoothie, that's conversations with God. Like you're getting messages from different sources, and it's all of them are beautiful messages. Like, you know, even just in the, like what we've been talking about, there's so many downloads that you get from drinking, eating healthy foods, from talking to healthy people, being out in the sun, you know, actually meditating, doing yoga. It's like these are God. This is God talking to you. Conversations with God. And like, I would highly recommend anybody read that book on this spiritual journey.
I'll have to do that. And another thing that you brought up from what you're talking about was resurrection. And, you know, I spent a little bit of time in Catholic school, and I know about like the concept of the virgin birth, right? Well, what if that's a metaphor for the birth that we give to ourselves? Isn't that a virgin birth? And isn't that maybe what we're doing is we're coming in to give birth to ourselves? Mm-hmm. And there's some real gems in there, you know, in terms of just thinking about how, and what you said also about these channels that we receive, right? Like I was at the store the other day, and I was just walking through the aisles, and they had like a Billy Joel playing on the thing. It was like the Piano Man. Have you ever heard the song The Piano Man? Somebody in your, I know I'm older than you are, but anyways, it's basically about a song about him when he was singing in a bar to a bunch of unhappy people, and he was the entertainer of the unhappy people. And this guy walks by me and he goes, "They're playing your song." He just said that to me out of nowhere. And that was a channel. This guy was given a channel to give me the information that I listened to that song and realized, wow, that used to be me. And in fact, it still kind of is me. The miserable person trying to make all the unhappy people in the bar happy. Yeah. Okay. And really, honestly, there's still a part of me that exists. I'm working on that every single day. I mean, to say that I'm not beyond that would be a lie. Okay.
I would think for anybody to say that on their journey, to say that they don't have any kind of those like implications, it's like it's a false illusion. It's
well,
like,
not me. I mean, maybe somebody, but it's not me.
It's never me. It's never me. It's like, you always want to make people happy. Like you're gonna like that's a part of us. It's like because we're all interconnected. You know, it's like it's nothing necessarily wrong with that part. But when you make that part, and it's like it's like, and we're growing through. It's like there's nothing wrong with that part of like making people happy and doing what you can do to put a smile on their face. But whenever you like identify like who you are as that, and that's who I gotta be to feel good about myself.
Yeah,
that's when that part becomes distorted and damaging. So there's nothing wrong with that in itself. And it's like I was liking how you had brought up like the life part, like how you're like the virgin birth and how like we're creating life to ourselves. It's like we're dying and being reborn each time like that near-death experience. And even metaphorically, like each time like your ego dies, like, and you come to this point in your journey where like you stumble upon the experience or read something or feel something where you're not the same the next day. You're like, nothing's ever the same again. And it's like, you have to like go through like living your life with this in mind. Like what you felt yesterday, you know, it's like how we're saying, like what you believe about God, it changes, or what you believe about the world, it changes every day throughout, because that's who we are. And so it's like we're constantly dying and living, you know, and it's like people like have a, you know, people have like a distorted view on death and stuff, and we can cover that as well, because like when we talk about life and death, like people get like, it's like fear, but it's really nothing to fear, because like death is only an extension of life, you know. Like I think about like when people die in our families, I'll speak on like my grandmother, and like I could see my cousin as the physical reincarnation of my grandmother. And like, I feel the energy. I'm just like, wow, this is like, it blows my mind. I have another little cousin, and she's just like her grandmother. I'm just like, this is blowing my mind, how life just really continues, and death isn't something to be afraid of, but something to be embraced to live this life.
Yeah. And in terms of like creation, like the way that I see creation, and it's just the way I see it, is that it all started with like a matrix, like the universe, you know. I mean, it's just the system of all and the laws of all, and it's like a big canvas, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a consciousness that was created. So that's the light, right? It's like, let there be light. Okay, there's light. Well, what happened was the light created the system. Okay, so the light created the system, and I consider that being the first whatever it was, and I don't even know what it was. But what happened was that the system created the consciousness, and that would be the children, which we all are. Yeah. And then there's the cycle repeated after, over and over. What you have is you have the consciousness creating the system, and then the system creating the consciousness. And it's an upward spiral. That's called evolution, right? So different dimensions have different understandings of the creator to the creation, right? You talked to before about what you feel about your creator reflects how you feel about yourself. Maybe that's why, because it's the consciousness that you come in. They say we're made in the reflection of the creator, right? Yeah. So I think we come in with the consciousness of the universe, which is like, you keep it together or you're going to get the hammer, right? That's karma. That's tough love. Then you have God, which is soft love. This is the everyone love each other and be free. This one will keep it together, right? Yeah, yeah. So you got both of them, and what they do is they evolve each other.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they work in balance. You know, it's like you were saying earlier, you can't just go off. I mean, you can, but I was saying, like, you can't just go off and not have like that foundation that's like, you know, it's like, actually, I don't like to do it like that. I'm going to do it like this. You know, it's like, you want to have like your foundation, something that you kind of like set in stone, your beliefs and like things you won't compromise. And which is like, you know, it's like, even like, it's like, you want to like not be flexible, but still kind of in a way, you know, it's like no one size fit all, but it's like, you want to have your foundation, but also be flexible to kind of keep like going, like just to kind of play in this like little area here, you know. It's like, you want to play in it. You don't have to like resonate in it. You don't have to like understand it all, but like play in it to kind of understand who you are at the like the core of it all.
Now, you talked about death, and this is the way I see it. One of my favorite sayings is, I didn't make it up either, but I really like it. Wherever you go, there you are. Okay, wherever you go, there you are. So you're going to take your consciousness that you have, and you're going to go where you need. Okay. So we talked about how there's layers of creation, right? So I think that those layers of creation exist. You know, people say that time is an illusion and that it's all happening at the same time. That's what they're talking about. The different dimensions, different experiences, right? Mm-hmm. So as the experiences they're like layers of a cake, right? They're all happening at the same time. Yeah. So right now we're in the dimension right here, is I believe our dimension is learning true love. I think that this school that we're in is about true love. What's true love? And I think what we're finding, and this is what I teach, is that true love is not always soft. Sometimes true love is actually tough. Okay, I do that with the kids. You know, sometimes I have to be really strict because they're doing the wrong thing. And wrong, I mean that they're doing something that is never going to work. Okay, like being unkind to somebody.
Yeah.
That's never going to work anywhere. I don't care where you go. I don't care what time of day it is. It's those natural laws. Kindness is important, right? Another thing, responsibility. Okay.
I have a question real quick that you brought that up.
Yeah.
You know, like even like when kids are like unkind and like, you know, vindictive towards each other, and
Yeah.
like we try to critique or try to teach them with sternness, it's almost seeming like we're reinforcing the unkindness to an extent. Like that's because it's like they're sponges, so they're gonna interact with everybody else how we kind of like how they like we just interacted with them.
Oh, okay. But when I say strict, I mean like respectful.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
I think respect is important. So what I'll do is I'll just pretend like you were a kid that was just out on the playground. Okay. So, all right, Jay, you know, you're out there and this and that. Look, I know you're awesome. Okay. I really care about you. And I know that, you know, and I'll start it that way. And then what I'll do is I'll build in like how important it is for them. So you build on their esteem, but you don't say, first of all, the first thing you don't do is validate. You know, Jay, you just have a temper and, you know, one day you'll outgrow that. I mean, you're not going to learn from that, right? It always starts with I respect you. You have to build that rapport. But then what you do is you build the logic in on that. You know, the way that you treat people is the way people are going to treat you.
Yeah.
And if you're out there and that type of thing. So it's kind of like that golden rule type of thing that you build in, but it doesn't come with stickers and lollipops either. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like, you know, I never believed in that. It's like, you know, give them a sticker and it's going to make them feel better about themselves. No, let them face the consequence of their actions. Don't take the consequence. The consequence is a gift. Okay. But build in the esteem to it. Look, you're strong enough to hear this. I know that you're responsible enough and smart enough to hear you know what I'm saying? So you're building it up without making it like, oh, now you have special time with me and you're going to get more for doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
There's a real fine line with that. And I've been teaching now for 18 years and I still have I'm pretty good with it though.
Yeah, and that was a great perspective. Like, and that's why I like that you like expounded on that a little more, because like I see how a lot of people like interact with children whenever they don't do something right. You know, they'll be like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, no, that's not the right way. And like that's more so what I'm talking about. And that's like you know, like that kind of reinforces the act that they're doing when you give them that attention on it. But like how you were saying, like you actually, you know, take them to the side, like, you know, have consequences for them, but like go about like how you speak to them in a different way, because like they are sponges, and then these kids become adults that talk to people and treat people in alignment with that. And that's what I was getting to. That's what more so like what I was saying.
Yeah, it's empowerment over enabling.
Yeah.
That's the fine line. You want to empower, especially children. You want them to feel like they're capable, right? Now, of course, you're going to scaffold it where you're rising with them, right? And you build on their strengths to work on their challenges. So what I'll do is I'll make them feel really like, I mean, it's like you have to build that rapport.
Yeah.
But with the rapport and all that comes the lessons and the expectations as well. So, you know, with teaching, there's two things that I teach. I mean, I integrate it in everything. Be kind, and be responsible. That's the big one with kids. Kindness is not a problem with kids, okay?
Yeah.
Most kids are naturally kind because I believe they're closer to the higher than we are, okay?
I say that too. Yeah, that's
okay? So kindness
so
isn't really the issue, okay? It's more the responsibility part, okay? Yeah. That's what's lacking there. And they get the concept that it's like, you know, there's not a sense of responsibility. And that worries me because like you said, they do grow up. But you know what? Maturity doesn't come with age.
Yeah.
Maturity doesn't come with age. Maturity comes with responsibility. Okay. Yeah. So you have to start taking responsibility. Now, 9, 10 years old, what does that mean? You know, show up to school, do your best, do your homework. Now, when they get to middle school, so it's like steps, right?
Yeah.
In middle school, they have 6 different teachers with 6 different expectations. Okay, but they went up the steps so they get to this one. What happens is that some kids are developmentally and they're allowed to be 6-year-olds, and then all of a sudden they turn 18. Okay, now how are you going to make up that ground? You're going to do that in a day, a week, a year? No, you should have been climbing steps the whole time to get up to there, right? Don't expect to grow up when you're 18 and you're a 6-year-old. And we all know people like that, you know? And there's a part of that that's beautiful. I consider myself an eternal 10-year-old, but that's my spirit.
Yeah.
Your spirit, right? Don't lose your spirit. Don't lose your spirit. But if you don't have responsibility, it's going to wipe the smile off your face, and then you won't have spirit anyways.
That's
okay. So spirit, I mean, right? You get the smile wiped off your face. Now you're strong. This is how spirit beats power. I just thought of this, by the way. My wife's not going to like this. Spirit doesn't beat power this way. Spirit lures it over to the side and then opens it up.
Oh,
Spirit, it's magic. Spirit, look, spirit's magic, right? But see, this isn't going to respect it if this is just like, oh, you know, I'm better than you. Look at me, I'm magic, right? I don't have to do anything. No. I'm responsible. Maybe I'll do it this way. Let me take you over here.
Like a magnet. Yeah. Man, that's powerful right there. That's powerful right there. I appreciated that analogy.
If we weren't talking about that, I would have never came up with that because I was trying to know my wife, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" Right?
Let her hit a whole podcast. She might come around. She gonna come around.
Never hear the end of it.
You put it all together it was like all the puzzle pieces from everything throughout each conversation that y'all had. It kind of came together. It might do the trick. I don't know.
Well, let me end with unless if you have anything.
No. Let's
You just said I put it all together, so now you're playing to my shine side. I'm like, oh, I did a good job.
Yeah,
Do you like me? Do you like me? Right. Anyways, so I'm in Catholic school, right? I'm in first grade, and you know, I'm just there and just going through life and all this, and my dad. My dad and I have had our issues, but he just got back from a bachelor party, right? And like over the weekend, and he got these fortune cookies from the bachelor party, right? And they're X-rated fortune cookies, all right, from the bachelor party.
Yeah.
So, you know, my mom's like, you know, making my lunch, and she's like, oh, well, fortune cookies, right? What a great time to put fortune cookies in Chris's lunchbox, right? You know where this is going.
Yeah.
So I go to school, I'm in first grade, you know, I'm just trying to like stay out of, another thing about Catholic school too, and this might have wounded me.
Oh, it was at Catholic school? That makes it even better.
Is that, just Catholic, that's what makes it funny. I mean, it would be funny if it was a regular school. This is Catholic school.
Yeah, it was Catholic.
But anyway, up to that point, like, you know, I came from the East Coast, and I moved to California, and I had an accent, right? Well, back then, that was like seen as not so good, so they put me in like speech therapy. Okay. So I'm sitting there with a ruler trying to like say the right way and like that. So I was like trying to just do my best at school. Scary, right? Well, I get this fortune cookie. I'm in first grade. And I mean, I want to know what it says, of course, right? So, I mean, I give it to the nun, and she's going to read it to me. Right?
Yeah. Damn, that's funny as hell.
Yeah. So what happened was she ended up reading the X-rated fortune cookie, and I'm not going to tell you what it said, but if anybody wants to know what it says, they can hit me up on Twitter. I'll tell you, it was really, really vulgar, and it was very inappropriate. And I ended up getting my mouth washed out with soap. So I paid the price. And the worst part about it is I went home and told my dad, and he thought it was like the funniest thing on planet Earth.
Oh, what? Oh,
yeah. My mom didn't think it was so funny.
Like, I can imagine if I had kids and that was to happen, I'm gonna laugh. Like that's
and you know, and I think to wrap it all up, that's really what this whole experience is about. Yeah, just about learning about who you are, getting to know other people, and having these classic experiences. You know, because back then that wasn't really funny. It like time plus equals humor, right? Now it's hilarious, and all the things that I've been through it's a culmination of me. And I believe everything that happens to all of us is a culmination of the universe. And it all just is united. And I guess that's the key, is united. We need to find a way to be united. The division thing, I think that's starting to prove. And before we go, I'm just going to say the whole thing with this, what our dimension right now. You know, my wife was saying, we were talking about it earlier, about like, why are things going on right now? Well, I think part of it is for us to see the program. We talked about at the beginning of this podcast that there's a program that exists. and there's a higher part of that. Let's call it the higher order. Then there's a higher spirit. Well, what happens is we get stuck in these programs, right? We get stuck in the matrix, if you want to call it that, whatever. But we get stuck in the program playing a character. Well, what happens sometimes is something catastrophic has to happen, like is happening to us now, where it has to reset, the program changes. So what happens is we look at a different order and we look at a different spirit. Now we have a choice. We could always go low, but I always believe that we rise together. I think what's happening now is our spirit's rising. That's going to raise the system. Our spirit is rising right now. We're sharing our spirit. That's what we're doing right now. We're sharing our spirit, but that spirit can evolve the program or the system.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. I'm no Nostradamus, okay? But I will tell you that I knew 3 years ago, when I went through my crazy, everything's a demon and the dog's a demon time, that something was going to change the world, that there was going to be an event that I told people there's something that's going to happen. It's going to be a global event. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Well, here it is. And I'll tell you this is the way I see it. I don't see it as gloom and doom. You know, they did in the last version of the Bible, they didn't call it the apocalypse. They called it the revelation, right? Wasn't it called Revelations?
Revelation.
Oh, okay. So that means that understanding, right? A new seeing, right? Not apocalypse. If it was called apocalypse, I mean, I might start worrying a little bit, but revelation. Okay. So revelation, evolution.
It's nothing to be scared of. It's like that's like this life is nothing to be scared of. It's like they push this fear all on the media and TV and religion and politics. They'll give you a lot of stuff to be scared of, but it's like when you really take a step back to look at it, it's like even with everything that's going on, it's like people are starting to take better care of themselves. They starting to eat healthier, think healthier. At least think about treating people better.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like I'm always an optimist, and I'm on the hopeful side that whatever comes from here is gonna lead us to the next stage of evolution. And we have great teachers and great leaders like us, that's putting our message out in the forefront, to help, guide the consciousness, like that's why, to do podcasts and to tweet, like that's why, like I say in the podcast, like where powerful creators come together to uplift the universal consciousness, because that's what we're in dire need right now, like an elevated way of thinking. Like we don't need nothing else besides to get our hearts right, get our minds right, and everything will take care of itself from there.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I love this. I mean, I really love it. I feel like it's the voice, right? It's the voice that makes a difference. That whole concept of one candle, given opportunity, can light the world. Well, there's many candles, and everyone's a candle. Everyone is a candle. Everyone is a candle, and that's what they don't understand. You just have to find your light. I'm going to end it with that. I might have to tweet that. Everyone's a candle. You just have to find your light, right?
You gotta find your light.
There it is right there. So everyone is.
Thank you for coming on, Kris, and dropping these gems, man.
It's a pleasure, man. I hope I could do more. I hope that, if people are listening to this, I mean, if they want to do a podcast with me, if you want to have me back, like I said,
your Twitter channel, let them know where they can follow you at.
Okay, and yeah, I'm a life skills guy on Twitter, and if you want to have me back, I'd be more than. My ideas change every day, so I have a feeling next time that's the whole beauty of it, is things evolve in the way. But I think the message that you're getting out, and the message that I'm trying to get out, that's a good thing to broadcast, because we're competing against other programming, right? There's other programming out there that is more divisive. It's more profit driven. And I don't think anything that we've talked about in the last, I don't know how long we've been talking, but it's based more on unity and understanding and connection and symbiotic relationships. I think being symbiotic is something super important. That's where all those connections come in, is the symbiotic. How can we use our differences as strengths? Because that's really where you learn, right? You learn from the differences. and making those the strength. That's where evolution comes from, the unknown or the challenge into the solution and the new understanding.
Yes, yes. Speak.
I dig this, man. I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks.
It was good building, man. It was good building. Like the conversation, like you said, like this is stuff people need to be hearing. Like this is the message that should be internalized. And so that's what I'm hoping that happens from here. But either way, I hope your soul was fed, my soul was fed. And
I feel great. I feel fantastic. I'm going to go off now and meditate with the jelly bean fields with the unicorns, okay?
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I'll see you in the fifth dimension, man.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.